Some kids need that visual to be able to see themselves um excelling at whatever their goals may be. So I think sometimes it is very important for um you to have someone in that environment that you can look up to, and you can kind of compare yourself to.
Hello, and welcome back to The Sporting Scoop, a podcast that takes a deep dive into the lives of sport's biggest trailblazers. My name's Georgia Doyle, and in today's episode, I chatted to Sunday Aryang, West Coast Fever player and Australian Diamond number 184. Having debuted in 2019 as a training partner before earning her first full-time contract in 2021, Aryang has already accomplished some of the sport's biggest achievements, including a Suncorp Super Netball Premiership, as well as gold medals at the Commonwealth Games and Netball World Cup. Join me as we chat about Sunday's rapid rise to netball greatness, how she balances life with an elite sporting career, and the importance of surrounding yourself with good people. So today we're joined by Sunday Aryang from the West Coast Fever and Australian Diamonds. Thanks so much for joining me today, Sunday. We're going to start at the beginning of your netball story, which is sort of at that elite level when you made your debut with the Fever in 2019 as a training partner. Can you remember anything about that sort of moment of getting the call up to the game day squad, and then what it was like when you stepped out on court for that first time in the green dress?
Yeah, probably my debut for Fever was kind of a wild one. I think when I look back at it and think about it, I didn't even realize it was happening or it was coming when it was coming. Like I felt like I was kind of in one of those periods where I was just loving netball. I was enjoying being in the environment. I wasn't too phased on being a training partner. Like I didn't even think about, where like this could go or anything like that, or if I would debut at any stage. Like I was just enjoying my time then. I was learning a lot, so never really thought about that. So when that phone call came, I was really like shocked and surprised that I was actually going to do it. Like it just didn't feel real at the moment. But yeah, it's still like a crazy one. And like even when I think about the whole diamonds and like getting to put on that green and gold dress, that was, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was just like a moment that I'll never forget. Like the fact that Richo presented me my dress, and it was in a moment of COVID, so we couldn't have someone come in to give it, but I got to get it from Richo, which was so cool. And then playing that first game and just feeling so sick when I was standing at the interchange box. Like my stomach was going, but just crazy how things happen and where I am now. It's just, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's certainly been sort of a rapid rise through the ranks for you. It wasn't too long after making that debut for the Fever that you were then called into the Diamonds environment, which is a pretty impressive feat, especially considering the talent we've got across Australian netball. You talked a bit about the debut for the Diamonds getting presented with your dress. Do you remember anything about that phone call, about the initial call up into the Diamond squad for the first time, or is that all a bit of a blur for you as well?
Yeah, that's all a bit of a blur. Like, I actually can't remember the phone call that I had with Stace, but I do remember a little bit when I was like sitting on the bench watching the game and then like hearing my name get called out, and I was thinking, is that my name I hear? Like, whose name are they calling out?
Is
Is it
there
mine?
another Sunday here? Is there someone else
Yeah,
that you're talking to?
exactly. That's how I felt. I was like, I think they've got the wrong person. But like Richo came down and spoke to me, and it was just, yeah, an unreal moment.
And you've made that move over into the hub as part of the sort of the COVID 2020 year when you were still in that training partner role. Was that much of a difficult decision for you to sort of step away from what you're doing in Perth at the time to then relocate over to the East Coast? Or was it sort of, nah, this is my chance, I'm gonna give netball my all and really commit to this?
Yeah, at first it was definitely a difficult decision to make. I remember sitting on it for a while and just thinking whether it would work out for me in the end of it. But like now that I think of it, I'm like, I'm so glad that I made that decision. Even though in the moment I was nervous about like what would happen with work, what would happen me living out of home, because that was the first time being away from my parents for, or like my parents and siblings for a long period of time. So I was a bit nervous about that. But honestly, everything went so well. There was hard moments here and there, but I think the girls did such a good job at just like helping me through the whole process. So I was very lucky in that sense of having such great people around me to help me during that moment.
You talk about the great people you had around you and in the fever environment. You've obviously been there for quite a while now. How have you seen sort of the team culture and team vibe, I guess, change from when you first started at the club back in 2019 to then now where you're one of the more senior or more established players in the green dress?
Yeah, you definitely, like when I first came in, it was just cool being in those um meetings and stuff, and even when we did our culture sessions, it was just cool to sit and watch and see how that all worked. And then, as I got more confident and comfortable in the environment, I started to have my input in those sessions. And it was just such a valuable time to learn so much about the group, but also learn new things that we could implement into our environment, which was great. And as the years go by, you can definitely see just like shifts and changes here and there. Like there was never a bad moment, but you can really see how different it can be. Like for example, last year we had about 50% new players, so everyone really had to invest into like building that culture, being connected. All the effort had to come from everyone, whereas like previously when I came in, there was pretty much the same group of people, so it was a different kind of effort put in than what we did last year. But it's so cool to see how culture really does change a club and how much it makes us better if we've got that culture under control.
Yeah, there's so many clubs that are always talking about their culture and how important it is to have a strong one. And especially, like you've said, when you've got such an established group for so long, I can see how it would be tricky to sort of be the lone
Yeah,
person or only two people that might be coming in and having to fit in. And I suppose Fever have been used to that over the last couple of years until you
yeah.
had that last year when you had that fair bit of turnover. But a few of the players that you guys brought on in last year were some new defenders for you to be working with. And then this year, your sister Ruth has come in and joined in as well. How have you
Yeah.
found having that really dynamic defence end with all four of you able to play across multiple positions? How's that sort of shift been this year with all four of you down in that defensive circle?
Yeah, it's great that we've got defense that can play in multiple positions. I think it gives Dan the opportunity to try people in different areas and not having to move one person because the other couldn't play that other position. So it's great, and it's also like I feel like everyone kind of just learns from each other when it comes to that, like especially with that wing defense position. I think like Ruth and Fran have been playing it a bit more, but they're very new to it. And I remember when I was at that stage of just learning how to do it. So like even being able to have discussions around that has been great. So yeah, it's cool that we have so many options when it comes to our defense.
Yeah, as we're seeing these days, a lot of pretty much every super netball team has such diversity because that's what you need to
Yeah,
win in such a tight competition that we've got these days. In that
exactly.
in that defensive unit, what would you say are some of your strengths that you really bring when you're out on court, whether that be a wing defense or goal defense?
I think probably in that like goal defense is just like that lockdown defense, and then also being able to have a fly and see um ball when it's coming down. And then in that wing defense, I think it's just getting in and around and just being absolutely annoying for the wing attack. I think wing defense is so different to goal defense, so it's just like being able to quickly change my my footwork and my mentality when I'm going into that wing defense position. But yeah, I would say that's some stuff that I bring.
I think you've absolutely nailed it there, where the job of a wing defence is just to be annoying. I feel like that's
Yeah,
pretty much what everyone's favourite thing is
yeah,
about being put in that position, whether it be at the highest level that you're playing it or down at the grassroots level on the weekend. I think that's the job of a wing defence to a T, and you certainly do it very well when you get the chance to put that bib on. So we'll go back a little bit now to you sort of growing up and coming through that WA pathway. Were there any sort of players as you were growing up that you sort of really tried to model your game on or really looked up to as you were coming through that junior pathway over in Perth?
yeah. So there was a couple that I looked up to when I was coming through that pathway. I think Courtney was someone that when I was in my junior days really did look up to her, and I think it was probably one of those faces where I was like, oh, she's like a WA athlete. She's also gone through the program. Like she's gone through the whole pathway and has made it to FIBA. So it was a good way to look at her in that aspect. And then another person that I also looked up to was probably Stacey Francis. I think just her like grit on court, and she was just always hungry to be better, and her voice, and she just had so much aggression in her that I honestly loved, and she just was always working hard. So I enjoyed that about her. And then I also had I remember looking up to MJ a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I think with MJ that was more from a space of seeing someone that looks like me, and I think being able to see that it's possible. So that was great having MJ. And then I actually have a lot when I think about it. I think I've got a bit too many.
No such thing as having too many role models, I
Yeah.
think. So
But no, there were so many. I feel like netball's such a great sport. There is so you've got so many options when it comes to like role models. There's so many amazing like women that play netball that have such everyone has such an amazing story, and I think they just carry themselves so well. So yeah, there's always heaps to pick from.
yeah, I certainly think you've hit the nail on the head again there. Of netball is so lucky to have such a plethora of people that aren't only good netballers, but they're good people and good humans
Yes.
as well. I
Yeah.
think compared to a lot of the other sports that we see out there, where there's always controversy surrounding what someone's gone out and done on the weekend or what they've said
Yeah.
or whatever. Netball's very,
You
very
don't see much
fortunate.
of that with netball.
No,
Yeah. Which is
exactly.
very good.
Yes, and we want to absolutely keep it that way.
Exactly.
So how was it when you then, you talk about looking up to Courtney and Stacey, and you played with them a lot in your early days, and now you have the chance to play with MJ. How has it been getting to know those people as well as the netballs, and what did you then get the chance to learn off of them when you actually got to be in the team environment with them?
Yeah, I learned a lot from them being in a team environment with them. I think with Stacey, something that really like drew my attention to was that the person she was on court, even though she was loud, like you could see she was hungry for ball and all that stuff. Like she was the complete opposite off court. Like she was a sweet, kind, caring individual. And also something that I really loved about her and something that I really like to take into my leadership is that she would always voice her opinion. And she was always one of the first ones in team reviews, in team meetings to just say what she has on her chest. And that was something that I think for my leadership, being someone I was quite shy and stuff, like I really wanted to implement that stuff. So I definitely took that from her. And then Courtney, I think it was just more the connection that we built on court. And I think just like the tips like that she would give me when I was younger, and even still now, like I get so many tips from her and stuff like that. But it's just like that easy communication. Like when something happens, she's like, "Oh, I think you can get that next one. Like if you do this and this, like you'll be able to get it." But I felt like we just had that like easy connection to just have those conversations when needed.
Yeah, I certainly think that honesty conversation is something you hear a lot of players talk about in the netball spaces. Everyone wants everybody else to be better. There's not a lot of
Yes.
sort of gatekeeping around that information of, well, no,
No.
I don't, I want to be the best player on court, so I'm going to keep that information to myself. Everybody's fully committed to making sure that everybody's able to be the best version of themselves that they can,
Yeah.
which I think is really, really important. So I reckon we'll jump next to as you've been talking about Courtney and your sort of relationship with her. You obviously have the privilege of playing with her in the Diamonds dress as well. Your first big sort of tournament after your debut was then going straight into the Birmingham Commonwealth Games, which was a really great tournament for the Aussies, getting to reclaim that gold medal that we hadn't quite been able to win back in 2018. What was your experience like at your first sort of big tournament like that, especially being one of the more sort of junior players in the team who didn't necessarily have the Australian experience, even though you'd be playing at Super Netball for a while by that point?
Yeah, that experience was pretty cool. Like I reckon nearly every day there's a moment where I'm like, still can't believe that I got to go away to the Com Games. But it was just like, it was crazy. Like, even us going in to get our passes to be able to go into the athletes village, that was crazy. And then we go into our rooms and like we've got these big bags with all of our uniform, our opening ceremony uniform, like just so many cool things happened during that, and it was such a exciting experience. And then even being able to sit there and just like take it all in and just have a moment of being like thankful for the position that I was in and being able to do something that I love so much and do it with so many great people was just so cool as well. And then obviously with the netball, just like learnt so much during that time, even from when we had our camps to when we headed over there. Like, I learnt so much from everyone and got to build so many close connections with the girls through um, com games. Like, for example, I think Paige is someone that I really got close to during that period because we were rooming together. So, like, we were just always just chatting about life and stuff, and just it was such a great moment. So, yeah, com games was, yeah, one of the best.
So you talk about Paige being your roommate at that tournament. That was obviously the one where she ended up going down with that calf injury and couldn't end up playing on for the rest of the tournament. And even though you still managed to claim gold, that was still a pretty impressive feat. How was it? Do you see if you were rooming with her and she was then presumably pretty cut up about the fact that she wasn't going to be out on court? Was that something that you sort of helped her try and get through, or was that something she was trying to keep to herself and keep away from the girls so that you girls could all stay on task?
Yeah, I think Paige was honestly such an amazing individual during that period, especially having gone down with an injury that would not see her playing any more games. And she just, even though we were roomies, and I was like, Paige, like, you can talk to me about anything. She's like, I didn't want to like ruin your experience with like my injury. So like, even though like I told her like, no, it's fine, you can chat to me and like it's okay and stuff, like later on she started opening up a bit more, but she was really cautious about still like allowing me to like enjoy the experience and um not worry too much about her. So I was like, oh, like, still talk to me because I'm still worrying, even if you keep it to yourself. Like, I'm still worrying for you. But she was great. She's such a team player. And even though, like, in that moment, she could have been so upset and just kept to herself and not given much to the team, but she was, like, constantly doing footage with people, constantly giving tips. On the bench, she was loud cheering. She was helping the mid court with whatever they needed. If they needed something to be cited, and Paige might be sitting there, she would see, like, this is a play that the wing attacking centre do all the time, then she would tell the middies that. But she was great during that period.
No, that doesn't surprise me at all from what most of us all know about Paige. I reckon she'd be
Yeah,
touted as one of
very
the most,
selfless.
that's exactly the word I was about to use. I
Yeah.
reckon she'd be one of the most selfless players out there. So that doesn't surprise me at all in the slightest. So the next big tournament you then went to was then backing it up the following year at the Cape Town World Cup. So was there any sort of key differences for you in your preparation to the tournament or how it felt being at a World Cup versus being at a Com Games?
Um, I think I went into it with the same mindset of I'm just going to be my best version while we're here. Um, like everyone else, we were there to win a gold medal. So I didn't really change any of the processes that I had from Com Games. Still had the mindset of I'll play and I'll play here and there, but when I do get that opportunity to take it fully and make the most of it, um, but yeah, I would say like the experience. Obviously, the experiences were different. It being based in like South Africa compared to the England, but honestly, like they took such great care of us there, and they made sure they did everything they could um to have us as comfortable as possible, which is great. But I think the experience was pretty much the same. The difference was I had already done com games, so I reckon the com games one was like an eye opener for me, and it was like, wow, like this is like elite sport, like this is what they do. And then the World Cup was more of a I've done this before. I know the processes that I need to put in. Now let's work hard to get that gold. So yeah, that's probably the mindset that I went in with.
Yeah, and all that hard work obviously paid off because, as we know, you were able to come away with the title for that one as well.
Yeah,
So, and since then, you've certainly sort of really stepped up in that Diamonds environment, especially around as there's been some of those injuries to some of the other defenders. Especially last year, you would have been one of the more senior players in that defensive end with Courtney and Joe missing a fair few
yeah.
games with injury. So, how was it getting to sort of be that more of a leader in that defensive end and really start to build a really strong combination with the likes of Sarah Clow, who you got a lot more minutes with compared to in previous years where there'd been a lot more rotation between the four of you that were out there.
Yeah, it honestly feels so weird hearing the word one of the more experienced players or like older player, because I honestly feel like it feels like I've only been doing this for like a year or two, like it doesn't feel that long, but it's definitely longer than what I feel. But it's just still crazy to think that now like they see me as a more experienced player, which sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But it was great getting to play with Sarah and being able to build those connections with her a bit more. It's definitely it it was one of those moments where you're put into a position where I can't just sit back and watch what happens. Like I have to speak up, being one of the players that have been in the environment for a bit longer than the newcomers that were coming in. So it just pretty much pulled me out of my comfort zone, and now I see that I can do it, so I can do it more often without having to wait for moments like those to come. But pretty much like just help the newcomers be able to understand and get around all of our plays and what we do in defense and what we do in attack. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was certainly nice being able to see some different lineups through that defensive end, and yeah, a lot of new exciting talent coming through the defensive end for the Diamonds, which is
Yeah,
really,
for
really good
sure.
to see. So you've talked about that bit of a shift of sort of, yeah, being, let's say, the sort of the impact player versus to then being the player that might be starting. How much of a mindset shift is that for you versus, being able to sort of work your way into the game versus coming off the bench and having to have that sort of immediate impact on the game?
Yeah, it's definitely a big mind shift. With being a starting player, you kind of have to know what you're doing from the start of the game. Like you can't even watch to see what's happening and if they've changed anything up. Like you kind of have to be switched on right from the beginning. Whereas an impact player, you get to watch what's happening and then you may have an idea how to change it up or impact when you do come on. But sometimes I do think it may be harder for an impact player because you don't really have that time to warm up into the game. But yeah, they are quite two different positions, but like I said, I've always had that goal of being able to be put into a position where I do get to start and getting to experience what it's like to be a starting player, which was great. And it's definitely such a different experience to being an impact player. But no, I enjoyed the experience, and it honestly makes me a better player when I get to experience stuff like that. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I certainly think that, yeah, that mindset change would be huge, and the ability to sort of recognize what the difference between the two is would be a really
Yeah,
important skill to have, and to not, yeah, not let that be something that sort of gets in the way of anything that you're
no,
doing.
exactly.
So we might circle back to one of the comments you made earlier about looking up to MJ as one of your role models when you were younger, because like you said, she was someone that you could see yourself in terms of the looks on court. So how important do you think it is that we have that really diverse representation in netball in terms of the type of people that we're seeing out on court, and what did it mean for you as a kid to be seeing some of those people that, yeah, looked like you out absolutely dominating on the netball court?
I think it's super important for kids to have, because I think some kids need that visual to be able to see themselves um, excelling at whatever their goals may be. So I think sometimes it is very important for um, you to have someone in that environment that you can look up to, and you can kind of compare yourself to, whether it's their looks or where they come from, or you know anything like that. It's always nice to be able to see that someone has succeeded in that space, and I think it's super important for sports to have that diversity so kids can have different kinds of role models. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we're certainly starting to see a lot more of that diversity, and not just that it's
Yeah,
there, but it's being celebrated as well. Like we've had the
no, and
inclusion
it's
rounds over the last couple of years of netball.
exactly. And I think it's great to see, like, I think when I first started watching netball, there wasn't much diversity, but as the years have gone on, you're starting to see so many different people in the league, and even like, like seeing players from England come over, seeing players from New Zealand come over, seeing players from South Africa. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that are all from different backgrounds that are starting to come to SSN, which is great to see. So yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's something that we'll only continue to keep seeing as netball continues to grow across the globe. So, in your sort of relatively short, as you've said, netball career so far, have there been any sort of lows or setbacks that you've experienced along the way? And what have you then been able to do to get yourself to overcome those and get to the other side of it?
I don't think I've ever been put in a position where I felt an extreme low for a long period of time. I think there's been moments where I felt low here and there when it comes to like the netball and like performance wise, like felt it here and there. But I think for me to um come past all of that, I really worked with our sports psych, and the sports psych, I didn't understand her importance until I was going through those issues and problems. And it's probably something that like I probably could have been a bit more proactive with it and actually like worked on it and knew about it. So then if I was put in that situation, I would know how to deal with it. But I had to learn the hard way where it was now I need to find a way to deal with it once it had happened. But I think the sports psych was very important and played a big role for me during those periods. And honestly, I've learnt so much that now I can implement in my netball when I'm out on court that I didn't even know existed. So, yeah, I think that was, I've had lows here and there, but sports psych was someone that really helped me manage with that.
It's always nice when you're able to add those extra tools into your toolkit, and like you said,
Yeah,
you're able to self-manage anytime anything might pop up. So you sort of got those tools all ready to go. And then
yeah.
I can imagine, as part of being an elite athlete, you've obviously got all this netball stuff going on. What is it that you like to do on those days off, your downtime, if you are in a bit of a rut with your netball? What sort of fills your cup outside of that and gets you back to realizing that, it's not all that bad. It's just netball. Life's going to go on. What keeps you happy or keeps your cup full on those days?
Yeah, so I think something that helps with keeping my cup full is probably on my day off, like getting into work. So I work in a nursing home, so with the elderly, and I think that is a really great moment to just separate myself from the netball and separate myself from what might be worrying me at netball and just like focus on them and then just having those really nice conversations with them and just I don't know, sometimes like in those moments like they can really put a smile on my face. So I would say that's something that I really enjoy and find very fulfilling. And then also probably just like hanging out with friends and fam, like sometimes that's just enough for me when I can just spend a whole day of just like hanging out with them, talking with them. Like even if you might be doing nothing, just being in their presence can really make a big difference. So that's something else. And then I really do love traveling during my off time, which is probably not something that I can just do here and there, but like when we do get that period when we're on leave, I do really like to get to exploring different countries and getting to see different places around the world. So yeah, they're probably some stuff that I enjoy.
So thank you so much for chatting to us today, Sunday. It was really great to get a bit of a deep dive into some of your pathway journey through netball and also what keeps you busy on the outside. All the best to Fever for the rest of the season, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you in a diamond stress for some test series towards the end of the year.
No worries. Thank you so much for chatting.
This podcast was recorded on the land of the